All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us. Looking forward to an evening of the art of the Italian snack. If we can't be in Italy, we can be at the second next best place in the world, which is our Booksellers. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, who's going to introduce Stef, and we're going to take it away from there. So thank you for joining us. If you haven't purchased your book yet, you can go at the register here after, and Stef will be signing at the information desk at the other side of the store. So thank you all for joining us. Take it away, ladies.
Hi, everybody. As was foretold, I'm Kristen. I am joined tonight by Stef Ferrari. Stef is a two-time Emmy-winning James Beard nominee. She has worked as a producer on the docuseries Migrants in the Kitchen, which is on PBS, and I encourage you to check that out. She is an editor of Life and Time, which is a digital platform for cooking and food stories for the culinarily and culturally curious. And she is also an author who has published many books, including the one that we're here tonight to celebrate, Stuzzichini. I can personally reference several of the recipes. I've been practicing over the last week. And I have a lot of questions to get to tonight. So before I do that, though, let's give a warm RJ Julia welcome to Stef. Okay, so I've tried a couple of these already, and I'm very excited. And I feel like they sort of capture the very spirit of being in Italy, which is kind of like using fresh ingredients, like really like simple recipes to let them shine. You lived in Italy for 2 years, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I lived in Italy I lived in Florence for 2 years. And I have family in Italy and visited them pretty frequently before that for a couple weeks at a time, and kind of just got used to got my toes dipped in the water in that way initially.
So take me through the process of writing the book, and I'm gonna trade mics with you because I think yours is not working.
I was gonna say I feel like I'm
Here, trade. I'll yell.
It's
I'm a very loud person.
It's fun, but as far as like coming up with recipes, is that what you're or
Yeah,
the
so tell me about
concept
the
for
process of like
Sure.
concept for the book, coming up with recipes, just try to check 1 2. Do you want to do a Taylor Swift duet?
Oh my God,
that's the
yes.
other thing that I'm really good at. Guys, we're actually turning this over to a karaoke night. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I practiced all the way here in the car. So the book, the concept of the book is very much based on so one of the things that really got popular here in the last, I'd say probably 10 years, is this idea of aperitivo, which is like the Italian version of happy hour, more or less. The drinks are very specific, though. They are typically like a Negroni or a Spritz, something along those lines. And these drinks are made with these liqueurs and spirits that are typically pretty bitter or bittersweet, and they're made with a lot of herbs and spices and things like that that are functional. They're meant to be appetite stimulating. And so you make these drinks and you have your Spritz or your Negroni or one of these variations on the theme prior to dinner at an aperitivo. And the thing is, those drinks got really popular here right around the time that bitterness in general started to become more of a popular flavor in the US. So you had people eating dark chocolate and kale and things that are inherently bitter that really weren't popular for a really long time. And so these drinks started to get popular. And then, when I was in Italy, what I was recognizing is that an integral part of the aperitivo process and ritual is these snacks. You go to these bars and you order this Negroni, let's say, and they don't just give you a Negroni because it's not considered drunkenness, believe it or not, in Italy is very frowned upon. And so they don't feel that it is good practice or good form to give someone an alcoholic drink without something to eat. And that's something that I think is a discrepancy between here and there. And frequently those things that they give you at the bar are free. So you go to these bars and you order a drink, and they bring you a huge spread of these snacks, which are like, they can be anything from potato chips to really composed salmon mousse puffs and like really beautiful little bites. And so it occurred to me at some point that we have this huge spike in popularity in these drinks now in the US. People are drinking Negronis, they're drinking Spritzes all over the place, but the food hadn't made the transition. This idea of stuzzichini, which is the word that describes that spread of food that you get with your drinks. So the book is very much based on that idea. While I was living in Italy, I traveled pretty much all over, and you will find different kinds of these little canapes all over the place, and they're very representative of the place that you're in. They're usually with local ingredients. There's some kind of, if you're in Sicily, that probably has more of a North African flair. If you're up in the north, you're probably going to find something with like an Austrian influence. So it's really a fun way to explore the culture and the different regionalities of Italy, is to have these little bites, and they're kind of like a low risk thing because you're not buying a whole meal. You just get to taste a little bit, and that way you can kind of try some things and get a flair for the personality.
I love that. I love the sort of the wizened practice of laying down a base layer as you're drinking. Very smart.
It's the only way to keep the party going.
You got it. Yeah, you got a carbo load. This is the marathon, not the sprint. And then I also really appreciated your description of the functional beverage. So with that, I want to ask you, what functional beverage are we drinking tonight?
Great question. This is one of my favorite drinks. So this is the Negroni. How many people here have had a Negroni? Okay, all right. So we're familiar with that. How many people have had an Americano? Not the coffee. Okay. And how about a spagliato, or if you are familiar with the viral version of this, that spagliato. Okay, so these are all variations of a Negroni. The drink itself, the classic Negroni is three parts, equal parts. It's vermouth, Campari, and gin, and that's in culinary circles kind of considered a perfect drink because you have the sweet note, you have the strength of the liquor and the herbaceousness of the gin, and then you have the balancing bitterness of Campari. That drink though has multiple variations. An Americano is without the gin but with club soda, so it's a long drink, as they lungo as they call it in Italy, or the spagliato, which is without gin but with prosecco, so you still get the alcohol but a little bit of fizz. My personal favorite is the Milano Torino. So the origins of the drink is right in the name. The Milano part is Campari, that's where Campari is from, is Milan, and the Torino part is vermouth, which is very much a product of Turin in Italy. And it's just equal parts, those two things. So I like it because it's a little less alcoholic than a Negroni, so I can have several of them. And you still kind of get that nice balance of bitter and sweet, but the purpose of all of these drinks is to stimulate your appetite. And so that's what the bitterness is for. Bitterness is the word aperitivo is apero and appetite, and apero means to open, so it's to open the appetite, and so it's intended to make you hungry, which is why they also give you snacks. But that's what this drink is. So it's just the equal parts, and it is the easiest thing to make, which is really nice because you can batch it ahead of time. If you're having guests, you can put it in a bottle, put it in the freezer, and just be able to grab that and not have to make a drink every time somebody walks in the door.
It's just 1-to-1-to-1 for a Negroni, right?
Exactly.
And then this is also 1-to-1. It's just a Negroni light.
Exactly. Which is what I love.
I'm going to talk about food eventually, but I have two more booze related questions, please. First of all, in addition to this, you are also, okay, so I've heard it pronounced two ways, the Americanized, like the Cicerone and then the Cicciarone, which I feel like is better and more right, which is the beer equivalent of a sommelier. So first of all, how do you do that? And second of all, with your expertise, what are your favorite beers to pair with snacking?
So in the US we just call it Cicerone. It's just easier for the ear, and but I worked in the beer industry for several years. This was back in like 2008, or right at kind of the beginning of the craft beer renaissance, we call it. And at the time, that program was fairly new, but I studied and took the test and failed promptly. And then I studied some more and took it again, and then I passed. But it is in fact similar to the sommelier, and one of my favorite parts about the sister own program is the food pairing part of it, as maybe thematically on brand for me. But as far as beers go, it's really interesting. I love wine, I love spirits. I think beer is maybe one of the most varied beverages. Like, there are just so many points of manipulation for making beer in a way that wine is a little bit more about letting the earth kind of express itself, and beer is a little bit more about the producer expressing, although that, it's philosophically, it can be different for different breweries. But some beers that are really classically just great with food across the board are saisons, which is a French style farmhouse ale. They usually have like a little bit of a peppery character. They're really effervescent. Bubbles in general are great for pairing food, because especially if you're going to eat like fried food or anything that's on the heavier side, bubbles are a palate cleanser, and they help to bolster certain flavors. I also, because I love bitterness, I do love like a really hoppy IPA or something like that. And I love sour beers. They're just fun. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna hit you with a hard hitting question, which is, can you describe for me your perfect day of eating?
Every day is my perfect day of eating. Like, my favorite feeling is hungry. That is my absolute favorite feeling in the world, because then
favorite feeling.
but then everything tastes good. It's like, when you are really hungry, whatever is in front of you smells amazing, tastes amazing. But I love, Julie can attest to my obsession with donuts. I love donuts. So when I lived in Italy, I was eating gelato at least 2, sometimes 3 times a day. And that was frequently for breakfast.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's not unusual, actually. That wasn't just me. But if I had my way, it would be like a progressive breakfast of like donuts, then ice cream. I'm not huge on lunch, so I'd probably just have like a cookie or something, like a really good cookie at some point in the day. I love pizza. I love pizza. So probably some kind of pizza for dinner, and then probably ice cream again.
Yeah, this is correct.
Yeah. And it's kind of common for me. So I live a good eating life.
I love that. And now, if you were going to put together a soiree, you're going to have some people over. You have some menus in the back here that are sort of like pairing things, and like a spring menu and seasonal stuff. What would be sort of your go-tos? Like, what are you most likely to make out of this book?
So the book is designed to kind of be a little bit of like a choose your own adventure. So each section is a different, so one section is like crunchy foods, one section is fried foods. My thought process when we put this together was to set it up so that if you wanted to, depending on how many snacks you want to make, you could pull one from each section and kind of have a good, diverse array of things. Like, you'll have one fried bite, you'll have one crunchy bite. I love some really unique things in here that are very simple and unassuming, like the fried sage leaves. That is something that the first time that I had it, it like blew my mind, because we don't think about doing things like that, but sage is like a nice hearty herb. You beer batter it, you fry it, and you serve it with salt, and it's addictive, and especially with a drink like this, it's absolutely perfect. I love candied nuts. There's Aperol candied nuts in here. Anchovy toast is absolutely one of my favorite things, and in Italy they serve it with a slab of butter is really the only accurate way to describe how you frequently get it. And it looks like there's maybe like a layer of, I don't know, cheese, but it's like that thick sometimes.
It's just butter.
It's just butter. But it's one of those things where, the beauty of Italian food is often that it is very simple, good ingredients and intuitive in construction. Like anchovy toast, you have your carb, you have your fat, you have your salt, you have the a little bit of lemon zest brightens it up, and that's it. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. So
That salt, that acid heat
exactly.
moment.
Yep, and just perfect.
Okay, well, now I'm getting hungry, which is your favorite emotion, but not mine. Okay, so in the beginning, you mentioned the Aperol coated nuts, which is one of the first recipes that you see when you go into this book. And when I was reading a little description in the beginning, I was like, oh, this girl knows what she's talking about. Because in the description of that, you talk about this nut vendor in Mercato Centrale, which is sort of like a perpetual farmers market in Florence. And it is heaven on earth. It is the best place in the world. It's sort of like, it gives you the sense of like, this is where all of the food is coming from, like, within 20 minutes of where where you're standing when you get it. It's got the freshest ingredients. It's sort of all of the stuff that you would want in one place. And so that was my big ethos building moment. I was like, Julie had preface that you were, the real deal, but I was like, oh no, she is the real deal. Like we've got receipts. So with 15 minutes to run around Mercato Centrale, what are you getting?
Oh my god. Am I eating or shopping?
You are eating later. You're
Okay,
shopping.
okay.
Yeah, we're not 15 minutes to eat. We're not gonna rush the process.
Okay.
But like you're preparing to go back to like a lovely, patio setting where you're gonna set everything up and kind of snack on it afterwards. Someone else is bringing the booze.
Oh,
What are you?
okay.
Yeah, and just a little like ease the pressure a little bit. But
Okay.
15 minutes, what are you getting?
I love this like guys grocery games version of
She's going for the turkey.
I truly, I could spend the entire day, and there's 15 minutes is tough. And for context, this market also has an entire section where you can buy and eat food.
So we're on the first floor.
Yeah, okay, first floor. Yeah. The upstairs is all the dessert places, but this nut vendor is my first stop. It is probably like the bins probably are this entire staging area, and it's every type of nut and dried fruit imaginable. I love trail mix. It's something that I've always loved. I don't know. I always say it's my my desert island food because I feel like I would never get bored. You could just like different parents. I would have peanut butter raisin on it. Like it's just, I get very it's intense for me. But yes, exactly. The amount of things that you can do with it. But in Italy, there's such this culture of they call it frutta secca, and it's dried fruit and nuts. And this guy has everything that you could possibly imagine. I mean, from the kind of average raisins to like dried strawberries, dried mulberries. Then they sell these figs that have almonds stuffed into them. So maybe my 15 minutes is just with this guy. There's also a fish vendor that has some incredible anchovies. Definitely going there. I'm getting bread. I'm getting anchovies. I'm getting olives. There's these roasted black olives that I'm obsessed with, and definitely nuts and dried fruit. Olive oil, balsamic, definitely cheese. Yes, thank you. I don't know where that came from. No, yeah. If I left without cheese, we would have problems. The Republic is absolutely without question. And to that point, the same cheese vendor also sells mostarda, which is like a jammy kind of condiment that he's got like 8 different kinds. The other problem with this market is everybody gives you samples. So you just can't like 15. No, I'm sorry. I need more time.
Okay, we'll give you a half an hour.
Okay. It's a good start.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
I feel like you missed the mortadella. But otherwise I think it's right. I mean, we was only like 3 minutes.
The competition show. I'm getting at the other end.
I should have gone for this. Yeah, it's heaven on earth.
Yeah.
So we were also speaking earlier of our mutual friend Julie. Shout out to Julie. Who's currently in possession of Jeremy, who I feel I should contextualize, but kind of don't want to. That Jeremy is your ice cream machine. So I've heard that and I'm not that shaming him because he's a machine. He's very large and very heavy. and is like the real deal. So you have also a past as an ice cream maker.
Yes, I am a reformed ice cream maker.
And how long have you been clean?
Julie has the ice cream maker now, but yes, I did at one point. In fact, about 10 years ago now, I had an ice cream shop. Very briefly. But Jeremy is named after my employee slash best friend. And I just don't know. Yeah.
What I feel like I remember somewhere in here you were talking about a cream that had kind of been like filtered through to create like with popcorn to create like a popcorn cream situation. And did that come from your ice cream days, your reformed ice cream days?
Yeah, so there's like a handful of recipes in this book that you will probably never find in Italy. Like, yeah, there most of it is very, very traditional, very classic, and I got recipes either from people or research for myself. But there are a couple that are like inspired. Popcorn's a really big part of aperitivo in Italy. You will often get even at the most basic level of old popcorn, which is so funny to me because it's just never something that I associated with Italian food, but it's very common there. And when I had my ice cream shop, one of the most popular flavors we had was an ice cream pop flavored with popcorn. So I would steep the popcorn, you toast it first, and then steep it in cream, and then you strain out popcorn, and it infuses the base with that flavor. I'm getting a little bit distracted because the photographer for my ice cream book is sitting here in the front row, who I haven't seen probably since we did that. And there is the book. But yes, there's a fun recipe in there that's kind of a riff on that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I can see where the madness and the genius met in the recipe. What's perhaps your most adventurous flavor that you ever created?
Ice cream wise?
Yeah. Or I mean, open it up.
I mean, well, in fact, I was telling Julie the other day that I once made cookies made out of I pulverized Cool Ranch Doritos into a flour, and then I baked them with, instead of chocolate chips, Sour Patch Kids. So that's maybe the most.
Wow.
Guys, it's legal now, okay? Or sometimes
I it just, how do you take two things that are so delicious and not try to put them together? I don't like an either or situation ever.
it's all fingers.
Yeah,
It's all coming together.
Ice cream wise, it may, we did a lot of crazy things, to be honest, but I think that flavor in particular was one of the ones that probably got the most attention, because it was popcorn ice cream. One of my favorite snacks was popcorn with sriracha, but I don't like to put the wet condiment on popcorn because it makes it soggy. Yeah. So I would dehydrate the sriracha and flake it, and then I would sprinkle that on my popcorn, and that really works in ice cream too because you're not adding liquid. So we would make the popcorn ice cream and then swirl in flakes of sriracha.
I'm getting hungrier. So I have my list of questions, which I also want to check the time because I will talk to you forever and ever, and they'll start playing the music at the end of the award speech where they're like, get off the stage.
Julie's got the book.
So I asked you this off, and it might be a trade secret, but I'll ask it again just to so people can start to ponder this in their own time. At the launch you had yesterday, they served Negronis, and then they also serve a phony Negroni. What goes into a phony Negroni that you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say so the company that makes these is run by a very good friend. His name is Louis, and he manages to like sidestep this question a lot. Like everybody asks, and he's just a very charismatic guy, and then all of a sudden it's like sleight of hand, and 20 minutes have gone by and you have no idea, and it's never answered the question. I did, however, get some information about the phony mezcal Negroni, because I was just so blown away by how he managed to mimic the flavor of mezcal, which if anyone has had, it can often be smoky. And it gets that smokiness from agave plants they dig a hole in the ground and they bury the agave plants and they burn them in the ground so they're smoked. But instead of doing that, for for the phony mezcal Negroni, he smokes nopales, which are cactus leaves. So you get similar flavor, but I don't actually know. I think he just magic. I think is the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems right. Magic.
Yeah.
It's magic. And so are you. So again, I will talk to you until the end of time, but let me try to be respectful of the constraints that we have been set. I think we have time for a couple questions.
Sure.
Cool. All right, I will now open it up to the audience. If you have some questions for Steph, throw a hand in the air like you just don't care.
What is your favorite kitchen tool?
I have two. Can I have two? Okay. Are we
I
going
think
to
it's
Disney?
30 minutes of market time. That's fine. She can have two favorite
I was gonna
instruments.
say that. I didn't realize I was getting these parameters. It's fun. The two that immersion blender and dehydrator. Those are absolutely the most useful things. My dehydrator never stops running. Yeah, and I make laundry on it.
It's dehydrating even now. The individual in the lavender shirt in the back. Do you have a question?
To bake. Oh, chocolate chip cookies, I think. Like just really classic, good chocolate chip cookies.
Or as we like to
Great
refer to
question.
here, lunch.
Yes, exactly. That's an excellent question though, because I love to bake a lot of things.
The talented lady in the front over there. Stop looking around, you know it's you.
I was just looking at these two, and you made, do you have, can you tell us about what's next for you in terms of books or adventures or anything?
Yeah, so I have kind of a non-linear career path. One of the things that I do in addition to this is I'm a ghostwriter. So I'm currently ghostwriting a book for a chef that will come out next year, and I've been having dreams as her recently, so that's fun. And disturbing in a way. I also write fiction, so I have a YA novel that's in the works, and I'm hoping that will be surfacing at some point. And we are talking about some kind of follow-up to this, but not quite sure what that's going to be.
We'll see.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I've heard of method acting, but I haven't heard of method dreaming.
It's really weird.
That's very
It's
strange.
really weird.
Yeah. More questions? Yeah.
As a producer, what is the best in your memory experience that you've had?
On the show?
Yeah.
Oh, so many. I mean, the thing that I will say about the show, and if from those of you who have not seen it, and I imagine that's most people in this room, it's every episode explores a different culture and how immigrant culture has affected cuisine in the United States. I think what I took most away from that show is that every single time we talked to a different culture, they always said, as if it were totally unique to them, well, when you're Italian, you just want to feed people. Well, when you're Japanese, you just want to feed people. Well, when you're Mexican, you just want to feed people. And it just was such a unifying thing that we just want to take care of each other. And I think that is the thing that stuck with me the most. And when we got everybody in the same room once or twice to do their careers, it was really nice to see that blend of cultures all kind of sharing that same philosophy.
You have a question?
Yes, I'd like to know what else you have written, what other books.
So Ice Cream Adventures
Hold on,
here.
let's right after that.
That was the first one, and Tina here was the photographer and so talented and wonderful. We spent a great week together in Pennsylvania once.
Eating tons of sugar.
Lots of sugar. Poor team. I wrote a book I co-authored a book called A Woman's Place, and it's all vignettes of women throughout history who have impacted culinary creations and thus culture in the world. And I also co-authored as a ghostwriter a book for a chef called named Aaron Sanchez, who is he's on Food Network, Top Chef. So I've done that, and then I'm a journalist as well, so I do a lot of writing for publications and that sort of thing.
We have time for one or two more if you guys want.
I saw that you had like tuna and cherry tomatoes, but I also want to ask like about sardines and tuna.
And when you have, like brands that you like or that you would recommend. And I also recently where I saw sardines, I also saw that they had like mussels or scallops, and I was like, never heard of that, like, and I'm just wondering, have you ever tried something like that? Is it?
Yeah, it's really fun, actually. This has become a really big trend in food in general. There are a lot of bars now that are opening just with these spreads of tinned fish. It's very Portuguese. Portugal has a really strong culture, and Basque Country and Spain, and parts of Italy as well. And of course, these are things that, you know, there are these trends in food that from time to time where like something that's very much a peasant food or like made for preservation becomes this like commodified thing where now we're going out and we're paying like $30 to eat sardines, which, you know, the joke was always that that's like something that should be kind of cheap and but to your point, there are these new brands now. There are like really responsible fisheries and that are sourcing and creating and packaging. There's a company called Fishwife in California that I love. That's a female run organization, and they have a range of different tinned fish. And they're really fun to try. I mean, anchovies, you know, I am a very big Ninja Turtle fan, and when I was a kid, that was like, you know, they want everything on the pizza, hold the anchovies. And now it's like you go out and anchovies are so cool. They're delicious when you actually get a chance to taste them. They bring salty, briny, they have less similar qualities to like olives or something like that. They're like seasoning. Sardines are a little bit more substantial, but yeah, I mean, I say experiment. You know, grab some good bread and butter and just have a spread.
slab.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. A slab. Yeah.
Let's take this moment because
Cheese shop right around the corner sells some fun tin fish, a lot of different varieties.
Amazing.
You can make a whole meal of it.
Yeah. It's great, and it's just a fun way to like have people over and enjoy it. Yeah.
eat this salty fish.
Exactly.
I roasted a chicken this weekend in anchovy butter, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is so good, like highly.
Anchovy butter on everything.
I also have to highly recommend, because you called out the tomatoes with the tuna in there. I have to call this recipe out, which I made, and if you look closely, already has the stains of tomatoes on it because I had it this weekend and they disappeared off of the plate. So highly recommend. I'm not just here to sell you a book. I'm here. I try the merchandise to make sure
Quality control.
quality control. I ate a lot of stuff in preparation for this interview.
And anchovy toast goes great on popcorn. I mean anchovy butter. I'm sorry, anchovy butter.
So I'm imagining you sitting at a cafe in Italy and you eat something amazing. Can you take me from that moment to how it ends up here?
I thought you were just gonna say, "Can you take me?"
The gosh, yeah, it was so many moments because, you know, it was a lot of traveling, but sometimes it was as easy as like an anchovy toast and just knowing that it's bread and butter and anchovy, you know. The tougher things were it was challenging at times because these are not recipes really. Often what you find for Stuzzichini is like a bar repurposing its lunch leftovers. So, you know, that there's very much a no waste mentality in Italy, and that applies very much in a restaurant scenario, and it's why they're able, frankly, to give it away for free. So sometimes I would taste something and I would go back the next day, they don't have it again because it's something they invented like on the spot. So when I decided that I was going to do this and, you know, kind of really began the process, I was taking notes a lot. I was looking at pictures that I took of things that I had months ago and like what was in this, and you know, so some of it is a little bit like pieced together and with my own flair to it. Some of it is you know, like the fried sage leaves, for example. That is a very much a thing. You can go online and find that. So it varies. Some of these things were like a little bit of an invention, and some of them were an amalgamation, and some of them are classics. So yeah.
Anyone else have a burning question? They absolutely are. All right, last question right there.
Was there a specific moment or memory that sparked your passion for food?
I think don't think I ever wasn't obsessed with food. I grew up, some of my earliest memories, and this is very true, was like making gnocchi in my grandmother's kitchen. And my first job was in a bakery, my second job was in a catering company, and then I just really never stopped. But yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to cook for people like you.
Well, with that, I want to thank Steph once again for joining us tonight. This is a super blast.
Picture of the crowd, if you all don't mind.
Beautiful crowd.
I have to, tomorrow I'm doing an Instagram takeover for the publisher, and it was fun sharing this crowd. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. So, Steph is going to be around the corner next, signing copies of the book, which if you haven't bought yet, I don't know what's wrong with you, but please go and buy it. And then proceed in an orderly and respectful fashion around the corner. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. And
All right.